It's just so funny because we're so covered when we identify with this body. When we identify with this body, we start thinking, this is me. And I am the controller and the enjoyer. And to the extent that we think that way, we're completely in illusion. And that's so funny because we're raised like that, you know. And there are so many things outside of this body, especially within the environment of our of our communities, which try to reinforce that we're our body and our mind. Oh, you look great. You really look good. You're working out or something, you know? And it's just so many things that we do. And the association keeps us thinking we're our body. And that illusion will make us try to enjoy, become attracted to certain things, attached to other things. Even within our own family, we have our children, and we become overly attached to the children, and we want to guide and protect. And we only seeing the child, not seeing the child's original place, position as belonging to the Supreme Lord and his servant too, just like we are. So this ignorance is really deep. And as we go on in the purificatory process of chanting Hare Krishna, you'll see that more and more the sun comes in, and the reality of how blessed we are to have this body, to use in the service of God. These senses, Maharaj Ambarish, to use them all in the service of the Supreme Lord. And in that way, we don't deny the body. We just see it in its proper light. So it's that ignorance comes in so many manifestations, and the one that brings so much of the delusion is there, and it's exemplified by thinking that, by identifying with the body. Because Jives Rupahaya, Krishnari Nichadas, we're eternal spirit soul, but we're eternal servants of Krishna. And that's a completely different thing. And the next one is the anartas, unwanted habits, the bad habits, the unwanted things in the heart. And they're there. You know, it can come from, again, from just our growing and our association and the habits we develop due to the association of the particular moods, material nature. Then they bring up varieties of engagements, attachments, and things of that nature. But it's really due to this association with the influences of material nature. Then externally, we associate, we eat in a certain way, we speak in a certain way. All these different habits are taking place due to this influence of those modes of material nature. That's why it's so important that we learn to, at least if we can't transcend them, we have big cherry in Bhakti Yoga in the Sevate, you know, Krishna says, for one who's engaged in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends these three modes of material nature and becomes situated on the spiritual platform, the level of Brahman. So if we're not there, at least get elevated to goodness. We don't want to stay there, but at least get elevated to goodness. Why? Because we can see a thing as it is. This is good for me. This is not good for me. This is not who I am. This is not who they are, based on knowledge. Gana Chakshusha, Shastra Chakshusha, seeing through the eyes of the scriptures, through the eyes of knowledge. So those are nartas. Got to get rid of them. And the last thing is aparads, offenses. So many offenses can be committed in such a casual way, such a casual way. We can be talking and speak in a very derogatory way about one another, not realizing that the devotee is Krishna's devotee. Offenses come. Someone steps on your toe, and and you can. There's so many ways we commit offenses. There's the big ones, Vaishnava aparad and Guru Aparad, but we commit a lot of offenses, and especially to the holy name, where inattentiveness is expressed as the big one, which from that all the other offenses come. So just being a little conscious of who we are and what we're dealing with, it makes the journey a whole lot better. So when dealing with these stumbling blocks, she's going to read about it. The main thing is to remember, instead of, once we look at it from the perspective of what my particular mode of ignorance is and what my bad habits and offenses are, then we try to work on them from that perspective, knowing that the main cure for me is to continue to chant the names of Krishna, Rama, Hare, continue to chant these names of God. And at the same time, while chanting these names, try to stop, committing offenses at the feet of the holy name. Because the other thing that happens is when we stop that, then there's one factor that I didn't mention. Even if you do all the right things, the one factor which changes everything is called grace. And grace comes from two sources. One is from Guru by his grace, and that other grace is from Krishna. For the grace of Krishna, you get the mercy of the spiritual master. Well, from the mercy of the spiritual master, you get the mercy of so many other devotees. We don't identify them oftentimes. We say, well, my guru did this. Well, what about the temple president who's looking out for you, who's constantly instructing you? What about the Sankirtan leader who's engaging you? Or the person who just, you come in and they just give you something to do, or you hear someone speak in class. This is all extensions of the mercy of Guru and Krishna. And so that mercy is really which makes the change within our lives. Okay, Hari, you're speaking too much. Let's get going. Get yourself together. Snap out of it. All right, Mother, are you ready?
Yes, I am, Prabhu.
All right, Mother, let's go.
It is absolutely necessary that devotees avoid offenses to the holy name. If they focus the mind on the task of not offending the holy name, the remaining two A's are likely to disappear automatically. In Bhagavata Arka Marichi Mala, 13th Ray, text 51, Bhaktivinoda Thakur translates Srimad Bhagavatam 6.1.12 as follows. Just as a disease is activated if proper food and medicine are not administered in a disciplined manner, so one will never obtain the result of chanting if one does not chant the holy names under the proper rules and regulations, such as chanting a prescribed daily number of rounds. The process of chanting is that one should always chant the holy name without any offense or duplicity while trying to progressively increase the number of rounds. Following the prescribed method for chanting, hearing, and remembering the Lord's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes yields the most auspicious results. Bhaktivinoda Thakur translation to Srimad Bhagavatam 6.1.12, emphasis added. The holy name is certainly the most merciful of all forms of Lord Krishna, but just as a master may withhold his mercy from an offensive servant, so the holy name may choose to withhold his mercy from an offensive chanter. Scripture tells us that there are 10 offenses to be avoided while chanting Hare Krishna. Most readers are probably familiar with them. For those who are not, I have dealt with them in detail in my book, The Nectarian Ocean of the Holy Name. Each of these offenses is stated in the negative. They are do nots. But each, therefore, indirectly points to a positive injunction. The prohibitions presented as the 10 aparadhas can thus be seen as instructions for us to develop specific saintly qualities and to do certain things. Expertise in one's practice or bhajan is defined as the ability to avoid these stumbling blocks. What follows is a list of the positive injunctions related to the 10 offenses as they are presented in Harinam Chintamani, chapter 13, text 38 to 41. Number 1. Diligently give up all blasphemy of Vaishnava sadhus by praising them. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also advises that the same mouth that has blasphemed devotees should be used to praise them. When someone drinks with the mouth a dangerous poison, he can be cured by drinking with the same mouth life-giving nectar. Number 2, adopt the pure understanding that Vishnu is the only truth. Number 3, accept the Guru who promotes the holy name with utmost sincerity. Number 4, accept the scriptures that glorify the holy name as supreme. Number 5, believe in your heart that the holy name is completely pure and spiritual. Number 6, have faith that the holy name is identical with the Lord. Number 7, attentively discard all the motivations that lead to sins, because it is motivation, not action, that is the seed of sin. Number 8, preach the glories of the pure holy names only to those who possess faith in the names. 9, entirely give up all impious and self-serving ritualistic activities. Number 10, meditate on the holy name without distraction. Let me add one helpful personal perspective to help us avoid offenses. Always consider yourself a humble servant of Shri Krishna, of the Vaishnavas, and of all living entities by giving up the erroneous conception of I and mine. These ideas are based on the false understanding of ourselves as enjoyers and controllers. Repeating, I am a servant, as if it were a mantra, can effectively destroy the basis of offenses, the false ego. By adopting these positive mental attitudes, we can successfully avoid all 10 offenses and soon awaken the kinds of feelings for Krishna that lead to pure love. You're muted, Prabhu. Haryashva Prabhu, you're muted.
Thank you, Mother. That was so nice. I so adore Satchidananda Swami for his clear presentation. He's just an amazing personality. But part of my prayer is that I'm a servant of Lord Chaitanya. I'm a servant of Lord Nityananda. And that, we used to chant that. And that is so nice because it pulls us right back to who we really are. And the Panchatattva is such a manifestation of mercy that it's just unbelievable that if we take shelter of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, then we're going to take shelter of the 6 Goswamis. And it's really going to start. So it's that shelter. And I love an expression that Borijan gives about the living entities. He says there's living entities are wandering all over. And there are countless living entities. But we are just tiny, all of us are tiny, insignificant servants of the Supreme Lord. And he says, and that's all that we can ever be. And that is, every time I used to read that, my heart would swell because that is such a wonderful thing to remember and to know. Not that one day they'll recognize me. One day I'll rise up and I'll see who I really am, how great I really am. That will never happen. One day Krishna may use us in such a way that the devotees see you because you are a wonderful servant of Krishna. That's who we are. But you won't see it. When it happens, you won't see it. As the more you see Krishna, the less you see of your false conception of self. And if we're a tiny, tiny, insignificant servant of the Supreme Lord, then that's all you'll see. But you'll see with clarity that you belong to Krishna and that you want to be used to serve Krishna. So I love that last point. All right, let's open the floodgates. Maharaj gave us so much food. He gave us so much to use today. Who wants to start? Either questions or sharing.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mother.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing in the beginning. I appreciated that, your open-heartedness, as always. I love that about you. And thank you for this last verse about the positive aspects of the 10 offenses. I think that that's really important to remember, kind of how we have the positive aspects of the 4 regs. So it's good to see the side that we're getting the benefits of everything that we're doing. So, so I just wanted to acknowledge that having these, reflecting and meditating on these benefits and the positive aspects of the 10 offenses is important, because sometimes when we're just told, no, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, as opposed to do this instead, do this instead, do this instead, we need both. It's balancing. Right? We need to know not to do something, but we need to be able to replace that activity with something too. As human beings, I think we need replacement activities as opposed to just complete abstinence. So, it makes it easier to transition the mind to positive, dovetailing, right? To transition the mind to more positive activities. So I just wanted to reflect on that and just acknowledge those positive and beneficial aspects of those points.
Thank you, Mother. We used to play a game when I was young in Krishna consciousness. And that game was who can find the most good qualities about the devotee. And I said, listen, I'm gonna tell you, don't play the game with me because I'm gonna win. Because I'm gonna wipe you out every time. So you don't want to play the game with me because I'm gonna see more good qualities in you than anybody else. No, let's go. And we start. And just like I told him, I'd wipe him out. Beat him all the time. And it's so good because we want to find the good qualities in the devotee. So if you look at devotees and you just start saying, oh, this devotee is a very regulated. This devotee is a very clear speaker of Krishna consciousness. He chants good rounds. He's so bright-faced. And you just keep going. He serves prasadam in a very nice way. He's so enthusiastic in kirtan. And you just keep going. Tell him, oh, Mother Shobharani, she reads so nicely. And, and she likes to really, she thinks like somebody's mother, these are things that I get. Or she's got that school teacher aspect about her too, Now sit down and put that down. Now go back to your seat. So, these are things that you'll see in the devotees. And every time you can just go deeper and deeper. Don't let anybody beat you. You find the good qualities of the devotees and don't hold it. Say it immediately. Get a microphone. Let it go. Let's glorify the devotees. You got to remember, these devotees are something. These are Krishna's devotees, and he's in love with them. He adores them. Imagine how the father feels when he hears you glorifying his son, his daughter, and explaining wonderful, nice qualities about them. It's okay. So we're going to have to bring that game back, you know? All right, next. Who's next?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
That Mother Sudevi.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Mother.
Um, so Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, getting rid of anartha nivritti is actually better to develop artha pravritti. Meaning, like it's the same thing, like you're saying, instead of criticizing, glorifying, and but actually, it's kind of the same thing. Instead of you tell somebody, don't always speak the truth, so that means you don't lie. It's like the same thing, but you're saying in a different way, which is, I guess it would be a better, pleasing way to say. But it's just, but actually you're saying the same thing. Like you're saying, don't criticize the devotee, glorify the devotee. But actually you're saying, don't criticize. Another thing is, just by glorifying the devotees as their service, you actually get some benefit. Probably somebody's out there 4:30, whatever, blessing the deity. You're sleeping in your bed. And then when you see the deity, you're glorifying, how so beautiful, this devotee, you did so nicely. But you get some benefit actually, just by glorifying the devotee. But now, in the other hand, just criticizing the devotee for whatever reason, then you actually lose so much. So it's if you really stop and think about it, it's really not profitable to criticize the devotee. That's why it's one of the first offense. Do not criticize the devotee. So that's all. Hare Krishna.
Oh, Mother, that was so good. I couldn't hear you so well. I heard you, but I wished we had a good mic. Fix your mic, because the things you were saying were so wonderful, and it should be broadcast very nicely. So I wish it could be heard further. But what you did is that, because I'm spacey, you gave reference. You gave scriptural reference. To things that we're saying, which is wonderful. But yeah, make sure that you adjust your mic so that we can hear you clearer.
I want to tag on to that too. Sometimes if we have a conflict with a devotee, that it takes practice, and I think it takes a really conscious effort. That if we have a conflict with a devotee, we may want to criticize. But in that conflict, like I said, it's a very conscious decision to say, and this devotee has such good qualities in these areas. So it's like, we may feel conflict in our heart, and we may want to criticize the person, but at the same time, we have to resolve the conflict in our heart. And one of the ways to resolve the conflict in our heart is to also see the positive aspects of that person, to say, well, this person may have done this, but they're such an expert at this and such expert at this, and I really appreciate this about them. So for me, that helps to resolve conflict too, to kind of just have that, the scales, like that balancing factor, to just, because it's human nature, right? Like we get in conflict and we have this critical aspect to our person. We all do it, right? We get in a conflict, we criticize. But if we can train our minds and it's almost like trying to pull a boat upstream. It's like really takes effort, because the brain will fight it. It'll just want to go into that conflict criticism mode, but to really like take that energy and to really try and make an effort to think about the positive aspects of that person and what they're bringing in what good qualities that they're bringing will really help to kind of counteract the conflicts too. So I just wanted to, that's a tool that I try and use anyway. It's a work in progress.
Well, this is a huge point, because how to deal with this and what you see. Actually, oftentimes we don't see properly, because even to say the devotee is that it's a very passionate act, or something is done, a little gross. The real test is for us. The test is, how am I maintaining my Krishna consciousness? How does my vision remain? How do I see this person as an important servant of Krishna? So to the extent that I lose vision, what happened? So we take it back, take it off the person and take it to inside of us. An attachment. Generally, there's some attachment. I'm attached to the fact that they didn't see things the way I wanted them to, or their actions. So there's some mental attachment. And as you know, if I become the doer, the controller, then I keep going down that scale from Dayato Vishra Pong, even not even just contemplating to the point that attachment develops. And then that separate enjoyment. I'm the controller, so I want to enjoy the result. Even in that argument or in that confrontation, I have to keep Jnana Chakshusha, Shastra Chakshusha. I have to stay in knowledge. I have to stay in the light. And I used to remember this when I was a younger man. I go out on book distribution, and there was a senior devotee that was with me that would do some things that I thought were really not good. And then he'd come back and he'd get on my case, you know. And I was thinking, one day I thought, I'm not going out anymore. Why do they keep sending me out with him? He has such bad habits. He creates trouble and this and that. So there I go. I just gave you the laundry list of the things. But the point is that, what about me? What happened? I became angry. Well, who made me become angry? How did that happen? I was not able to transcend. I could see, but I couldn't transcend those influences. So therefore, due to my attachment, anger and frustration arise. And then I'm just back down to the material pool. So as the devotee becomes trained, as we continue to lift those weights, you know, when those little things come, the kid comes and kicks you on the ankle. that's a crazy little kid, you know. You can just run out, you can just laugh, you know. You have to flex your spiritual muscles. We have to become stronger. We get knowledge, and then life's experiences, they test our knowledge. Is it now realization? Have we come a little deeper? Are our senses a little more under control? We don't have to react just because we can. Do we still see the bigger picture? I'm a servant. And if the devotee has a problem, maybe I should say, oh, well, the devotee has a problem. What am I doing to help the devotee? It always comes back. If humility is there, if knowledge is there, then we really can navigate through the situation in a much better way. But, you know, I'm not going to put up with that crap, you know. The next time he's, but who's speaking? Who's got the mic? Is that Das? Is that so-and-so Das? Does my mind have the mic? You know, does my false conception of self? Who's speaking now? So we remember that, because the experience is that once we get entangled, when we walk away from it, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said. Why? Because we know that we've just committed a bad act, or that we've just lost. We didn't win that fight. So it's keeping the reality of who we are and who we're dealing with. That reality, that type of understanding enables us to always become a little more benevolent. Instead of criticizing, we try to help. We see the devotees acting very, listen, Prabhu, did you have prasadam this morning? Come on. We'll deal with that. Let me give you some prasadam, you know? Prabhu, you want to talk? I'm here for you, you know? And if you can't transcend it, then you put some distance between that situation. But the main thing is to not get stuck on that situation. And I'm saying that because I've been stuck so many times. You know, society ought to be taken opportunities to evolve. Yes, Mother, that's true. I don't know how to say your things and read them at the same time. I'm not good at that. But yeah. Okay. That's my 5 cents. Trona, did you want to say something?
Yeah, and I think a very good conversation. I think this is really opening up to something that's very practical that we all, learn and grow in Krishna consciousness. And a lot of these ideas are oftentimes quite new and challenging to us. And I really like how Maharaj gives us a way to approach it. The affirmation, repeating, I am a servant. If it were a mantra, can effectively destroy the basis of offense, the false ego. So nothing much, you said a lot there, but just something we can constantly keep repeating in our mind like a mantra whenever those situations occur. Even when they're not occurring, just keep it going. I am a servant. Otherwise, we're acting on the basis of, I and mine. We're viewing things through, as he says, the erroneous conception of I and mine. The ideas are based on the false understanding of ourselves as the enjoyer and controller. But that's something big that I think that I took out of this, just constantly repeating, I am the servant, I am the servant. That was helpful.
And who are you the servant of?
Sri Krishna and the Vaishnavas.
That's great. And just saying it, it becomes, we begin to own it. We believe it, and we begin to act in the light. I used to ask my uncle every day after I did my errands, he would say, well, Howard, you're a gentleman and a scholar. And I said, finally one day I said, why do you say that? I said, I'm not. He said, that's okay, you will be. Well, I was right. I never became that. but he always added such a positive thing. I was never told, man, you're a bum. You're this and that. I was always that positive input. Okay. How we doing, crew?
What I wanted to say was that of these 10 offenses, the way they are listed and the order in which they are listed, the second one is saying, adopt the pure understanding that Vishnu is the only truth. The third one is that Guru promotes the holy name. The fourth one is scriptures that glorify the holy name as supreme. These are just such profound affirmations, such big instructions. But the first one that is listed is give praise, don't blaspheme. And I think that is the most important one that we need to conquer and master if we want to realize the others. And again, Srila Prabhupada had said, cooperate with each other if you want to keep this going. And this is where we have to do it. This is what we have to master. When we were young, my grandmother would always say, you point one finger at somebody, 3 point at you. If you blaspheme somebody, 3 times that much wrong or bad is in you. Work on that. If we don't work on that, and if we don't, I don't know if you'll be able to master it. I don't know if this lifetime is enough, but if we don't, I don't know that we will be able to get further.
Mother, that's just, when you go to some religious organizations, you see that they have down this act of kindness, how they're really very, they're very respectful and kind to one another. They speak to each other in a very nice tone. And sometimes you can think, well, it's so hypocritical. But even before we own that realization, practice is what we do. Sadhana, practice, is what makes us perfect. If we practice glorifying the devotees instead of blaspheming, and if we research it a little bit, what stops me from glorifying devotees? And what makes me find fault with devotees? If you just look back a little, pull the skin back a little deeper, you'll find these are just faults within myself. So the whole point of the process is a point of self-realization, self-evaluation. We have to remember that we're here because we discovered that we were really not that good, that we were not good servants, we were not so obedient. So we checked into a spiritual hospital. And here we're trying to evolve and become good, clear servants of the Supreme Lord. I think we need to keep that point also there. So when we hear instructions, we want to follow them. Why? Because I'm the one standing in the need of prayer. I need the help. I have to be careful the way I'm dealing with Krishna's devotees. And that I is I, me, the servant, me, the person who's kind of fallen. You got to see it. This isn't to develop low self-esteem. It is to actually bring us to the light that we're from the spiritual world. We've got a gorgeous spiritual body waiting for us. And now we're dealing with the mind, the senses, and this is just nasty. Look at this place we're actually at. And we're from a place where every word is a song, every step is a dance. It's just constant. Look at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. There is the party. I mean, it's a party. They're passing out. They're chanting the holy name. And somebody's waiting for them to regain consciousness. And then they come back and they're dancing again. Somebody else is passing out. And they're glorifying the devotees. And they're taking prasad to their full satisfaction. Well, what kind of life is this? Just chanting and dancing, and it's glorifying the Supreme Lord. And that is why our association is so important, because it's going to bring us to the reality of who we actually are. All these other things are external. They don't have really anything to do with our reality. We're trying to do something while in the prison house. This is not our home. And let's snatch some other people out as we're getting out, That's why we remember that we're servants of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. We are part of the Sankirtan movement. Srila Prabhupada taught us, take this medicine yourself and give it to others. Just keep passing it out. Keep passing it out. This is reality. So I thank you, Mother. I always feel that I tell you, you have that school teacher, that mother mode with you, the way mothers used to be, and the ladies used to have that with them, that you trust them, you trust them, you want to do it. So that I found one of your nice qualities, Mother. Okay, let me see what time it is.
Or nine.
What time is it, Rona?
9:08.
9:08. So I'll just find out if there's any other contribution. There's something else I want to add. So again, I so thank you. I hope you know that I really appreciate your time and your association. And back to what I started with, I'm going to solicit help from you. The devotee, as I said, Isa, who is a younger devotee, he's been around for a while, but he's still an uninitiated, not so developed, and did a lot of service for the Panchatattva here. I know that because his leaving this world was not so auspicious, that I need to ask the devotees to help me counteract that inauspiciousness by praying to Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda to please give shelter to this devotee. See, the prayers of the devotees are so powerful that they don't go unheard. And even when you disobey the laws of God, the devotees are so powerful that the devotees can convince the Supreme Lord to help, to give another chance. Because the Supreme Lord loves the devotees. So I'm petitioning you to please help me. And please, when you pray, ask Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Srila Prabhupada, please help this young man. Please bring him to the shelter of your lotus feet. And in that way, that's who we are. Sometimes it's just the influences are too strong, and we don't realize that there's always someone to take shelter of. But anyway, that being said, the positive is that we are people who pray. We love to petition the Lord, and we love to ask the Lord to help his struggling devotees. And that's my 5 cents. That's pretty much all I have to say. Okay. So,
Yeah, sure, Prabhu.
yes.
I think it might be appropriate. You set a very nice mood right there. And I was thinking throughout the class that collectively, if we said a prayer now, maybe you could lead us in the Shingadev prayers, since we're all assembled together. I think that would be, good for all of us to send that energy toward the soul of Isa. I think, would you do that for us?
Sure.
And I think sometimes it gets a little distorted, but I think for this time, when we chant together, but I think this time we have to come together and let our voices be heard. We could turn on our microphones, and I think we'll do our best with call and response. But I think it's good for this time. So
you turn off your microphones.
We can turn them on. We can turn them on. You lead.
Okay.
Our best. Whatever questions there, we put our minds aside. Let's not get our minds caught up in any distortion. But let's chant with our hearts.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
La 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 da. Hiranyakasipo Vatsa. Shilantankanaye. Dona Simha, Padatona Simho. Yato Yame Tatona Simho.
Yato
Ayena Sringo, Ritayena Sringo.
Ayena
Sringo Matem Sharanam Prapadye. Avakara Kamala Fare Nakam Abuddha Singam Dalita Hiranyakasipu Tanu Bringam Savadrita Nadahade Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare
Prabhuta
Sringram Dalit by Hiranyakashipu Keshavadrita
Narahari
Rupa Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare
Jaya
Jaya Jagadish Hare
Savadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare
Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare
Jaya Nasimadev 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 Jaya Nasimadev
Jaya
Srila Bhagavan ki Jai.
Jai.
Way, it's very difficult to chant like that, but the gist of the prayer, the heart of the devotees could be heard and understood. And that is the most important aspect of prayer. Prayer is that we're extending, we're petitioning, we're glorifying the Supreme Lord. And he can hear that. So even if we're out of tune, even if we're not in sync, if we chant from our hearts, then the Supreme Lord can hear us. I'm so grateful and thankful for your participation. Thank you so very much. All glories to Sri.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Hariasra Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Asha Kalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvaya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Namo Namo.
Jai Shri
Hare
Namo.
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnave Namo Namaha.
Blessing everyone. Thank you, all the devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Jay-Z.
Krishna. Thank you.